Greetings everyone, this is SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, here to bring you another retro review from past seasons of The Loud House. In today's video, we take a look at the episode from Season 1 where maybe, just maybe, there's a reason why your friend wants to hang out with more than just the one person who invited them over in the first place. Today's episode is titled, Overnight Success. First we'll discuss the plot, and then my thoughts and critiques with my final score. So, let's get right into it. In this episode, Lincoln plans a night of sleepover fun with his best friend, but Clyde sidetracks his itinerary when he starts hanging out with the Loud sisters. Lincoln tries having a sleepover with other kids from his class, but none of them last too long. He apologizes to Clyde after finding out why his friend enjoyed the company of his sisters more than what Lincoln wanted to do that night. The episode ends with everyone spending the night together as they enjoy what they consider the best sleepover ever. Well, that concludes the plot of the episode, so now we come to my thoughts and critiques. As someone who used to be friends with kids who were an only child, and me having a brother, I never knew why these kids wanted to hang out at my house so much and me rarely ever hanging out at theirs. As I got older and having watched this episode play out the way it did, it all made sense. Clyde says he's an only child, and that's part of the reason why he sleeps with stuffed animals. They keep him company at night when he doesn't have any brothers or sisters to fill that void. You really do feel bad for him when he says that, because while he has to sleep alone, his friend gets to be surrounded by 10 sisters who love him, and it's like Lincoln doesn't appreciate who he has in his life. Well, I mean, in his defense, there is a difference between living with his sisters and temporarily staying over with them. Yes, they can be annoying to a degree, and they can make things very uncomfortable for guests, which pretty much explains why most of Lincoln's other classmates couldn't last a few minutes being around any of them. Plus, Lincoln really had to convince his parents to have a sleepover after his sisters ruined the many sleepovers they had with their friends in the past. I can understand why Lincoln thought making a scheduled list of activities was a good idea, since he wasn't sure if his sisters would do something that would result in any future sleepovers getting cancelled all over again. But surprisingly, he came off as a bad friend when he was the one to cancel the sleepover with Clyde and pretty much abandoned him by that point. He ruined his own sleepover with the only kid who not only has the capability of putting up with the spontaneousness of his sisters, but actually likes it. This episode gave some good depth to Clyde's character, and given how many times he's been seen hanging out at Lincoln's house ever since, it shows what a good friend he can be. Okay, I think I talked enough about Clink and McCloud, so now let's move on to the other characters. This episode is very notable for being not only the first episode to feature the debut of Clyde's dads, but I believe it was the first time Nickelodeon officially introduced a same-sex couple on screen. And don't even give me that phoned-in Legend of Korra argument. Their introductions were met with very positive reactions, and it was noted by critics that they respected how these two were casually portrayed. Their sexual orientation was not put on full display, they weren't treated any differently, they were just there for a few seconds, and that was it. Just, hey, it's Clyde and his dads, nothing unusual here. The way the writers handled that scene was spot on, and you know they did something right when they have an official Wikipedia page dedicated to just this episode alone. Anyway, Harold and Howard come off as very protective but responsible parents, with Howard having a harder time letting go. We also get introductions to Lincoln's friends Liam and Zach, who later go on to become permanent fixtures in Lincoln's friend group. And yes, even these two besties can't handle what happens inside the Loud House. And finally, we come to the Loud sisters. Each of them had at least one moment with Lincoln and/or one of his friends that played well to their respective personalities. They also proved how they were a better friend than Lincoln when they took care of Clyde when he passed out after seeing Lori. They all had their own things they wanted to do, but they weren't going to leave Clyde passed out on the floor by himself. By the end, Lincoln realized the error of his ways and decided that he'll do whatever his guest wants to do, which of course included watching King of the Rings with everyone. And this brings me to the last thing worth noting, which would be my favorite part of the entire episode. Clyde talks about his lonely childhood as Luna plays the sad violin in the background, and when Lincoln shockingly rips up his itinerary, Luna plays the appropriate music cue. Gotta love the little things like that, you know? Overall, I really enjoyed this episode for its relatability and realism, at least as far as cartoons can go. Lincoln learned to appreciate not only the sisters he's lucky to have, but also learning to appreciate the one friend who likes being around them a lot more than he does, and that would be Clyde. Learning about his lonely childhood and quiet nights alone with stuffed animals really tugs at the feels, and you grow to appreciate the depth it adds to his character. The introduction of Mr. and Mr. McBride was tastefully and respectfully executed, the girls had some funny and heartwarming moments, and everyone was able to have a happy ending. Remember, it may be your house, but if you want your guests to be a little more comfortable, try to loosen up and go with the flow on whatever it is they may want to do. It just might pay off for the both of you. With that said, I give Overnight Success a 9.3 out of 10. Well folks, that concludes my review of Overnight Success. There's actually one last thing I didn't notice the first time I watched the episode, and not many people may have picked up on it at first either. Lincoln circled Saturday on his calendar for the sleepover, but Lisa was talking about her Friday night brainwave studies on the same night. How could somebody in the writing room mess that up? I know it's not that big of a deal, but still, was it really that hard to remember what day this episode was taking place? Maybe the writers need to lay off those peanuts, right, Lenny? But anyway, as far as this episode goes, what did you guys think of it? Love it? Hate it? Something you would add? Change? Keep it as it is? Let me know in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe to this channel for the latest Loud House content. That's going to do it for me. I'll catch you guys for the next video, but until then, this is SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, signing off. Peace out, home slices.